He wasn't armed, he wasn't hostile, he was just black. And that was enough. Enough to be handcuffed on the sidewalk. Enough to be forced to his knees by a white police officer. Enough for someone to start live streaming, without knowing the full story, without knowing his name, without knowing the blood on his cheek had more to do with fear than guilt. His name was Caleb Miller, 13 years old. Built his first AI prototype in 6th grade. Won Silver Grove's Regional Science Fair for a project titled, "When Algorithms Get It Wrong, Racial Bias in Facial Recognition Software." Yeah, that Caleb Miller. But that Friday afternoon, he wasn't a tech prodigy. He was just a boy riding his cousin's e-bike through a neighborhood that pretended to welcome everyone. Until the moment it didn't. The woman who called 911 didn't say he had a weapon. She said he looked out of place. She said he was circling. She said the bike didn't look like his. And that was enough. 3 minutes later, Officer Dana Keene arrived. Her voice louder than her facts. Her authority drawn not from truth, but from assumption. "Hands where I can see them. Step off the bike. Kneel." Caleb froze. He knew better than to argue. His mother had prepared him for this. Every black mother does. "Don't talk back. Don't make sudden moves. Obey, even when they're wrong." He complied. And still, she pushed his face to the pavement. Still, she twisted his wrists behind his back like he'd done something unforgivable. The cuffs clicked. The camera phones clicked. But no one asked. What did he actually do? Because the truth never arrives first, only the footage. What no one knew, what Officer Keene couldn't have known, was this. That neighborhood was wired. Every mailbox, every porch, every tree had eyes. Silver Grove's AI-powered security system had flagged Caleb the moment he entered. Not because of anything he did, but because of how he looked. And that same system? Caleb had once hacked into it, for research, as part of his project, as part of his proof. One server, one camera, one backup recording. Still active, still watching, still catching everything the police wanted buried. And somewhere across the city, his mother's phone buzzed. Nicole Miller didn't answer right away, but when she did, when she saw the words, Caleb, detained, injured, she didn't scream. She ran, and everything this community built on comfort, code, and quiet compliance was about to fracture, because Caleb wasn't the threat. But what he knew, that was, and no one, not the officer, not the woman with the phone, not the system behind the badge, was ready for the part where the truth had receipts. Next, we rewind to the moment Caleb left school with hope in his pocket, and someone watching. Not with suspicion, but with something far more dangerous. A hidden algorithm. It was supposed to be a perfect day. No headlines, no sirens, no hands behind his back. Just a boy, his code, and a science fair. Caleb had woken up before his alarm. That never happened. But today wasn't like other days. Today, he'd be presenting Bias Watch, his AI prototype trained to detect racial discrepancies in surveillance footage. He built it on borrowed equipment, in his bedroom, surrounded by printed screenshots of misidentified black faces in public databases. His room looked more like a newsroom than a kid's space. Nicole, his mother, peeked through the door as he fine-tuned the demo. "You know they may not understand it, right?" she said gently. "I don't need them to understand," Caleb replied. "I just need them to see." And they did. His project table was surrounded. Teachers took photos. One of the judges asked if he'd considered a patent. Someone from the State Science Council handed him a card. He didn't even care about the prize. He just loved being seen for the right reasons. Brady, his white cousin, picked him up after the fair. "You want to ride back with me?" Brady grinned. "We'll cut through the east side. It's faster." They'd done it before. Silver Grove had security, sure, but as long as you rode through with confidence and with a Brady-level bike pass, you were fine, or so he thought. That day, Brady peeled off to grab snacks from the corner store, tossing Caleb the keys to his electric bike. "You head on, I'll catch up in like 10. Simple, harmless, ordinary. Except this time a sprinkler malfunctioned. A Karen stepped outside, and Caleb's hoodie wasn't gray. It was burgundy. A color Silver Grove's camera AI had been trained to flag based on past, suspicious activity. Just like that. The data shifted, the system whispered, and the streets began to watch him. He didn't notice. He was thinking about whether his app could recognize the subtle tone difference in voice detection. The way someone says thief when they mean black. He didn't know that somewhere, in a white and blue SUV, Officer Keene had just gotten a call. That she didn't even check the timestamps. That the description wasn't of a suspect, but of a fear. Meanwhile, Nicole Miller was in her office, staring at a wall of internal affairs reports. She'd seen enough cover-ups to fill a lifetime. She had no idea her son was about to become another one, until her phone buzzed again. "Are you Caleb's mom?" "He's been detained. He's not hurt. Well, we think he's okay." It was just protocol. Protocol. That word would stay with her longer than the bruise on Caleb's cheek. Because she knew protocol. She helped write it. And this wasn't it. They told her it was a misunderstanding. They told her not to escalate. They didn't know who she was. Not yet. And they had no idea that their entire narrative had been recorded. By something they didn't control. Not a body cam, not a witness, but by a forgotten server, buried in an internal testing folder, on a system Caleb once cracked. For fun, there's a reason people trust their gates more than their neighbors. But gates don't erase history, they just hide it. And Silver Grove's history was about to resurface, one frame at a time. The only thing louder than the patrol car's siren was how quickly everything else went silent. Silver Grove wasn't the kind of place where police lights meant danger. They usually meant someone's mailbox got knocked over, or a raccoon found the wrong trash can. People peeked through blinds, curious but not concerned. But this time, it wasn't a raccoon. It was a boy on a bike, and he was already on the ground. A woman on her phone whispered, "Oh my God, is that a taser?" Another one replied, "No, I think he's just resisting a little." Caleb wasn't resisting. He was trying to breathe. His heart was louder than the officer's voice. His mind flooded with flashes. His science fair, his mom's voice, Brady's bike, his app, his future. "I need to call my—" "You don't speak unless I say so," Officer Keene snapped. Her knee pressed into his back. The cuffs tightened. And Caleb, for the first time that day, stopped trying to explain. Not because he gave up. Because he knew. She'd already decided who he was. The live stream had already begun. The title, Suspicious Teen Gets Caught. Silver Grove Security doing its job. In the video, Officer Keene's body cam is off. But the neighbors' phones aren't. And the angle that catches everything? Not from a human. From the edge of a nearby lawn, mounted on a smart sprinkler tower, was a camera. Not one that reported to the police. One that reported to the Silver Grove Homeowners Association's AI server. The same system Caleb reverse-engineered 2 weeks ago for his presentation. It was watching. It was storing. And it saw everything that didn't make it into the official police report. Nicole Miller pulled into the cul-de-sac like a storm bottled in a sedan. She didn't yell. She didn't cry. She walked toward the officer with a voice that cut sharper than sirens. "Step away from my son." Keene turned. "Ma'am, this is an active investigation." "No," Nicole said. "This is a lawsuit, and you just gave me probable cause." The neighbors started backing away. The live stream stopped, but the algorithm didn't. Later that night, the police department would file a statement. Officer responded appropriately based on a concerned citizen's report. Suspect matched description of individual involved in a recent e-bike theft. But there was no recent theft, no suspect, just a story they had to invent fast enough to justify the bruises. They didn't know the HOA server had already logged every second. They didn't know the facial recognition system Caleb had built could prove he'd been misflagged by their own software. They didn't know the boy they cuffed was building the tool that would undo them. Because what happens when the system that judges you is dumber than the kid it tried to erase? What happens when the footage you tried to bury was backed up by someone you never saw coming? The next day, Caleb lay in bed, silent. Not from pain, from something heavier. His mother sat beside him. "You okay?" He didn't answer. He just turned his phone to her and pressed play. It wasn't the live stream. It was the HOA security feed from his own server copy. And at the end of the clip, after the arrest, after the officer walked away, a third party appeared on screen, a figure in a hoodie, face obscured, leaning into the lawn camera, plugging something into its side, and walking off. There had been someone else watching, someone who wasn't supposed to be there. And they didn't just record the truth, they had access to it. But why? The hardest part wasn't the handcuffs. It wasn't the concrete. It wasn't even the bruises. It was what came after. The silence. Caleb didn't talk much that weekend. He didn't code. He didn't eat dinner with the family. He just lay in bed with the lights off, playing the video clip over and over again on his phone. Every time, he paused at the same frame. The hooded figure. The device plugged into the sprinkler tower. He zoomed in, adjusted contrast, nothing. It wasn't just someone random. They knew what they were doing. They walked straight to the access panel. No hesitation. And worse, they disabled the primary feed just after. Meaning, the only reason Caleb had this copy was because of a test script he forgot to delete. An accidental backup. If he hadn't left that line of code running, there would be no footage. Just a black boy, and a story rewritten by a badge. Nicole tried to comfort him, but comfort felt like a lie. She'd spent her career telling families, there will be accountability. Now, even with video proof, she could feel the walls closing. "You know what they'll say," Caleb finally whispered. "They'll say I tampered with it. They'll say I faked it." She didn't respond, because he was right. Meanwhile, the Silver Grove HOA issued a statement. Polished, cold, safe. "We regret the incident and are cooperating fully with local law enforcement. The security system in question is maintained by an independent contractor. No apology, no name, no responsibility. Just distance." Even the school remained silent. Caleb's science fair win was quietly removed from the website. His name, gone. His project page, under review for data integrity concerns. That hurt more than the cuffs. They didn't want the truth. They wanted clean. And Caleb was no longer clean. Randall, his father, kept a folder of printed statements, clipped news reports, and blurry screenshots. He didn't say much. But late one night, Caleb found him staring at the video, frame by frame, just like he had. "They're trying to bury it," Randall murmured, "but they forgot who they cuffed." 2 days later, something strange happened. The backup server, the one Caleb used, went offline. He tried to reconnect, pinged the IP, nothing. Then a message popped up, access denied, session terminated. No name, no signature, just a final line. "You weren't supposed to have this." That's when Caleb realized the footage hadn't just caught a crime. It had caught something bigger, and someone out there was willing to erase everything to keep it quiet. But Caleb? He didn't erase things. He decoded them. He remembered something. It came back not as a memory, but as a feeling. That day, 2 weeks before the science fair, he'd stayed after school late, waiting for Brady. But Brady had forgotten. So Caleb took the long walk home. Halfway through Silver Grove, It started to rain. Hard. He ducked under the gated awning of a smart security terminal, one of those stainless steel poles with glowing blue lights and blinking sensors. The kind that always watched, never blinked. He was soaked, cold, annoyed, so he pulled out his tablet. Not to text his mom, he knew she'd panic. Just to poke around. The access point on the terminal wasn't locked. It should have been. But it wasn't. He connected. Not to hack, just to look. At first, the system felt like any other proprietary security network. Until he saw the label in the corner. Tier 3 ID mapping, heat index, elevated, skin tone. Bias, adaptive. He didn't understand it, not completely. But he knew what it meant. The system didn't just track movement. It tracked probability. It tracked color. And it adjusted based on patterns fed to it. Patterns that had names like his. He took screenshots. Didn't say anything, not even to Brady. But he couldn't stop thinking about it. So when it came time to pick his science fair topic, he didn't go with drones or neural networks. He chose this. This thing he found by accident in the rain. This thing no one was supposed to know about. What he never told anyone, not even his parents, was that he wasn't alone under that terminal. Someone had spoken to him. A girl, maybe 17. Black hoodie, torn jeans, sneakers too clean for someone caught in a storm. She had appeared out of nowhere. "You don't want to be in that system too long," she said without looking at him. "It logs more than you think." Caleb looked up. "Are you?" She cut him off. "You didn't see me. I wasn't here." Then she vanished. He didn't even realize he'd stored that moment until now. Didn't connect her to the figure in the security footage. But now. Her words rang louder than ever. "It logs more than you think." He opened his project folder, scrolled to the image he captured from the terminal, zoomed into the metadata tag. There it was. An internal code buried deep. One that wasn't supposed to be public. S3RK override access, internal bypass logged, device ID unknown. A ghost key. Someone else had been inside that system before him. Someone with full clearance. And they left the door unlocked, just long enough for Caleb to step through. He looked back at the figure in the recording. Was it her? Was she trying to help? Or was she the reason the server was shut down? Because in every good story about surveillance and secrets, the first person to warn you might also be the last person you should have trusted. There's a moment, after humiliation turns cold, when something sharper takes its place. Not anger, not fear. Intention. Caleb sat at his desk, hoodie on, lights dimmed, fingers moving faster than his thoughts. He wasn't just reviewing the HOA footage anymore. He was building something. From fragments, from shadows, from systems that never expected a 13-year-old to understand them. But Caleb didn't need permission. He needed access. He started with the sprinkler tower, reconstructed the camera's IP address from cached DNS logs, then moved on to the neighborhood's private mesh network, a buried cluster of overlapping device pings and blind spots. He cross-referenced timestamps, overlaid motion logs with his own app's internal scanner. And there it was, a signature. Not the girl's, not the police's, someone higher. Someone with contractor-level credentials, buried under a name that traced back to a cybersecurity firm in D.C., the kind that didn't usually handle gated communities, unless those communities were testing something more than just doorbell cameras. Nicole noticed the shift. Her son, who had barely spoken 3 days ago, was up late. Focused in a way that scared her more than silence. "What are you doing?" she asked quietly. "Saving it before they wipe everything," he said without looking up. "Wipe what?" "The truth." He turned the screen toward her. Lines of code, snapshots, heat maps, and a file folder labeled Proof of Pattern. "They didn't just arrest me," Caleb said. "They flagged me before I ever stepped on that street. The system's designed to learn from bias and call it risk modeling." Nicole stared at the screen. at the rows of names, skin tones, incident tags, at a neighborhood that looked safe, but had been training a machine to fear her son. She placed a hand on his shoulder. "We don't leak things, Caleb. We follow the process." He looked up. "That was the process, Mom, and they used it against me." Randall entered, holding a file of legal correspondence. "They've offered a settlement," he said. "Non-disclosure, payout. No admission of fault." Caleb didn't even blink. "If I sign that, they'll bury the algorithm." He was right. That night, Caleb uploaded a decoy version of his app to an encrypted mirror server, then wrote a script that pinged all hidden devices connected to the Silver Grove mesh. At 3:17 a.m., his laptop dinged. One device responded, hidden, embedded, with a label code he hadn't seen before. SGOVR Cetral. Admin port active. Someone was still in the system, watching, still deleting, or worse, rewriting. But this time, they wouldn't be the only one watching, because Caleb wasn't the only one who'd been flagged. And if he could track the pattern, he could prove the design. He wasn't just building a case. He was building a trap. They reached out through an email that wasn't an email. No subject line, no footer, no traceable headers. Just a single sentence. "You've proven your intelligence. Let's not test your survival." Caleb read it 3 times, then showed it to his parents. Nicole's hands trembled. Randall didn't speak. But Caleb, he smiled. "They're scared." The next morning, he walked into school as if nothing had happened. Backpack, lunchbox, hoodie. But something in his eyes had changed. He wasn't returning to classes. He was walking into a baited zone, because the trap was set and someone had taken the bait. That afternoon, the school's digital learning coordinator, a man named Mr. Doran, pulled Caleb aside. Tall, clean-shaven, thin glasses, a lanyard that didn't quite match the school's official color. "Caleb, can we talk for a moment in my office?" He smiled too much and blinked too little. Caleb followed. Inside, the blinds were closed. The office lights were dim. A monitor glowed with code Caleb didn't recognize. At least, not fully. Doran gestured to the seat. "You've made quite the impression this week," he said, folding his hands. "That wasn't the goal," Caleb replied. "That's what concerns us." Pause. "You're brilliant, Caleb, but brilliance without permission." "Well, that makes people uncomfortable." Caleb tilted his head. "People like you?" Doran smiled again. This time less polite. "People who keep systems running, quietly, safely." "You mean people who erase footage and plant threat flags?" Doran didn't flinch. "You think you've uncovered something. But the truth is, you're just early, that's all. The world's heading this way anyway." Caleb leaned forward. "So Silver Grove was a test. A simulation, a very small one, a harmless one. But now you've made it messy." "You tased a kid." "We flagged risk," the officer responded. "You trained the AI to flag that risk." "We trained the AI to protect assets." "Caleb." Sometimes the lines blur, but we don't control how people interpret the output. "Don't you?" Silence. "You're not the first to get close," Doran said finally. "But you are the youngest." Then he slid something across the desk. A flash drive, labeled simply, "Offer. Review it quietly. This can go away. And if I say no, then the next time someone flags you, Caleb, no one's coming to stop it." Caleb picked up the flash drive, looked at it, then looked at Doran. "If your system is so confident in its predictions, why are you the one sweating?" And with that, he walked out. But he didn't throw the flash drive away. He opened it, alone. Inside? Not hush money, not a bribe, but a list. Names. Hundreds. People. Kids. All flagged. All entered into a quiet, invisible registry, based on behavior, location, tone of voice, and skin tone. The project wasn't about crime. It was about control. And Caleb was no longer the target. He was the breach. The press conference wasn't his idea. He hated cameras, hated microphones, hated being called the boy from Silver Grove. But they insisted. The governor's office, the ACLU, half the internet. They said the world deserved to know, so Caleb stood behind the podium. No tie, no smile, no parents flanking him like props. Just him and a laptop. He didn't begin with a speech. He began with a video. The footage played in silence. Officer Keene. The cuffs, the sidewalk, the false report. Then another clip. Silver Grove AI interface. Flagging his profile before he even entered the gate. Red circle. Elevated risk. Then another. A list of flagged individuals. Names, ages, ethnic tags, labeled not as people, but as prediction units. The audience didn't gasp. They froze. Because this wasn't about Caleb anymore. This was about everyone the system deemed preemptively unsafe. He spoke, finally. This wasn't a glitch. It wasn't a rogue officer or a bad setting. It was built on purpose. To flag certain people before they ever do anything. And when I built a tool to detect bias, I didn't know it would prove something even worse. I thought I was helping the system learn. Turns out the system was already trained. The feed went viral in minutes. The Silver Grove program was exposed for what it was, a prototype for scalable behavioral filtering AI, funded quietly under a federal urban prediction initiative. Congress launched an inquiry. Lawsuits flooded in. Officer Keene was suspended, pending review. The company behind the system denied everything until their own internal memos leaked. And still, Caleb refused interviews. He didn't want a book deal or a documentary. He wanted one thing. Every flagged person contacted, notified, cleared, not in theory, in writing. Months passed. One morning, as he sat quietly in the back of his school's computer lab, a new notification pinged on his screen. Unknown sender. Subject line. You were right. Attached. A short clip. Security camera footage. It was the sprinkler tower. The same one. Same angle, same storm. But this time, the girl in the hoodie wasn't walking away. She was turning, looking straight into the camera, and smiling. Not a warning. A goodbye.